Welcome! Today we're going to be taking a look at Adrenaline. Adrenaline is a 3 to 5 player action point area control card drafting, basically your FPS in a board game. We're going to take the role as one of these champions fighting in the Adrenaline tournament. The one with the most points at the end wins the game. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at some of the components, the setup, and how round and turn works in Adrenaline. Now we're going to look at the game components for Adrenaline. We're going to start with the main game board. Now this game board has a variable setup because it is printed on the front and back of both of these boards. So there are some suggestions in the rulebook based on the number of players playing how to set up these two boards. Then each player is going to receive their own player board of a specific color. Make sure the side showing 8 is on top. Next, you're going to receive the action tile, which you would want to make sure that the ×2 is on top. Then you'll receive your champion of that same color and the damage tokens of that same color. Next, you're going to notice the ammo tokens, which are in 3 different colors, red, yellow, and blue. And then you will notice the ammo tiles, these little small tiles that are placed on the board. Then you're going to have your cards, which your weapon cards are the bigger ones. And then we also have your power-up cards, which are in the top right corner, which are the smaller cards. Next, we have the point tokens, which are in the top left corner. And then the first player marker, which is in the bottom right corner. You'll also notice the red skull tokens across the top, which lets you know the length of the game remaining, as well as where you would remove one when one of the champions dies. Lastly, if you are playing the game in, say, domination mode or turret mode, you would use the additional board. The front side here is the domination mode, and the back side is the turret mode. If you are not using either one of those modes, then that board can go back to the box. Now let's go ahead and look at the setup. What you see here is a setup for a 4-player game. First, you're going to make and place the game board in the center of the table, choosing which sides of the game board you're going to use. Then you're going to be placing your skulls in the top left corner. If it's your first time playing, they suggest 5 skulls, but if you've played the game a few times, you can add the other 3 and make this an 8-skull game. Then you're going to shuffle your power-up cards and put them in the right top corner. And then you're going to do the same thing with your weapon cards, and then making sure to place 3 weapons in each of the spawn locations. Then you will shuffle and make stacks out of your ammo tokens. And then you will place the ammo tokens over each one of those little boxes in those sections. So the only place that do not get ammo tokens on the board are the spawn locations. You're going to make sure to put your point tokens next to the board, and then you're going to get each player a champion, their own player boards, action tile, their damage tokens, and then you're going to give them 3 of each one of the ammo colors. Then you're going to put 1 of each of those colors in the ready spot on the player board, and then choose a first player to start the first round. Now let's take a look at what a round and turn looks like in Adrenaline. If it's the first round, each player will start by drawing 2 of the power-up cards, choosing 1 to keep and 1 to discard and spawn in that area. Once that has taken place, you can start your turn. Now a turn consists of 2 actions, and you'll see that on your action tile. You can run, grab, or shoot. If you choose the run action, you can move 1 to 3 spaces on the board. Make sure if you're going from different colors that you go through a connection and not through a wall. Next, you can choose the grab action, which means you can move 1 space and then grab the ammo tile or weapon from that space. So you can grab this tile, or if you wanted a weapon, you could take the weapon from the red section. Now, when taking the weapon, you would pay the cube cost below the first cube. The first cube is considered to be loaded, and then you would only pay the yellow cube. So that yellow cube would go from the ready position on your board off to the right of the board. So, if this was my board, it would go off to the right with the rest of the ammo. Now, as you are grabbing these ammos, weapons, and collecting power-up cards, you can only have a maximum of 3 of the same color ammo in the ready position. You can only have 3 of the power-up cards in your hand at a time, and you can only have 3 weapons. The last type of action is the shoot action. For the shoot action, you are to play a weapon card, specify your targets on the board, pay any additional cost if it had one, like you see here, and then deal damage. So, if I was to use this Whisperer, and let's say I was in the blue room and purple was 2 moves away, then I could use this card and deal 3 damage and 1 mark to purple, which means I would place 3 of my damage tokens on their player board and then 1 in their mark area. If you're not sure how your weapon works based on the pictures, then there is a weapon manual in the game. It is at this point I do want to go over what this little target means. If you see, this purple has a damage token in the little target area. That means if blue was to hit her again or strike her with one of the weapons, then whenever they put one on her board, this would go down as well. So, when you mark somebody, it's kind of like you get an extra hit the next time that you hit them. After you've taken your 2 actions, you're going to start the end of your turn. There are 3 things that take place at the end of your turn. You can reload the weapon back to your hand by paying the full ammo cost, including the top one this time. Next, you're going to replace any weapon card that has been taken, and then any ammo token that has been taken. And then finally, you're going to check and see if any champion has died during your turn. If one of the champions has damage markers all the way to the skull, then that champion has died during the round. So let's take a look at what happens when you get damage markers on a character. So, if, say, yellow hit him for 2, let's say gray hit him for the 3rd one. It's at this point that his grab action is a little bit better. So now he can move 2 and grab. After he's hit a few more times, his shoot action becomes better. Now he can actually move 1 and then shoot. And then it is at this point when the skull is covered up that he would die during that turn. And if that happens, then you would take one of the skulls at the top of the board and then put it down on the 8, and then take this yellow damage token and put it on the skull at the top of the board. If he had gotten a 12th hit on that turn, then both of these would go to that skull spot. Blue would get to put one of his damage tokens in the target or mark area on that player's board. So this would go on the gray player's board. When you're scoring, the yellow person gets 1 point because it was the first to hit. And then based on the number that you have, you will get points for this death. So what you see here is that yellow has 5 and gray has 7. So gray would get 8, yellow would get 6, and then they would get all of their damage tokens back, except for the 2 that would go up to the skull on the top left of the board. And then blue would draw a power-up card and then choose one of the power-up cards from their hand to then spawn. Turns would go around and around until the final skull has been placed, and then you would move into the final scoring if it's your first time playing, in which you would score all the boards and the kill shot track. If you play this a few times, you can go into the final frenzy, which will allow everyone one final turn, and you can flip your action tile to the bottom side to see what kind of actions you can take during the final frenzy. After you've done so, you're going to score the boards and then determine who is the ultimate champion of the Adrenaline tournament.